Thank you, Angie. And thanks to Jennifer, too, who I know helped organize this, and to everyone at Berks Bards. I really appreciate this. I'm sorry that we can't meet in person, but this is just as good in a way. And I'm used to it now from teaching this way, and I know many of you guys are too. So I'm going to read, I'm going to start with a poem by another poet and then just read various poems. And if you guys want to chime in and say something or ask questions or make this more of a conversation, that's totally great with me too. Since I know most of you, we can just talk and read and do it that way. I'm going to start with a poem by Jean Valentine, a short poem. She's a poet that I love. I read a lot and get a lot from. This is from her collection, Little Boat. It's called Photographs at Her Wake. Two curved tortoiseshell combs in her hair. No more breathing in and out. Outside, in childhood, a glint of water, green in the limestone. Inside, in marriage, she and John in their lighted room, comb into comb. Can you feel a hair under a page of the telephone book? Under 2 pages? Under 3? I love that poem. I'm going to start with a poem that I feel like it's somewhat influenced by Jean Valentine. And it's a more recent poem. And I was going to work backwards through my work and read a little bit from each of my books. So I'll start with this poem. It's called Lantern. Leaving the house, I could no longer smell the incense burned earlier. Returning, it is sandalwood, not even faint. Like suddenly, Ezra outside the school, clamping under his arm too many drawings and gripping a lantern he made from half a milk jug, shows me missing him all day has lit me from within. Ezra's my son, which most of you know. And here's another one, recent poem. This one is called For C, for Colleen, my wife. The doctor dilated your eyes, and the dumped bed frame in the alley shined otherworldly white. All love work and dream weight radiating out at once. Not at once. The next day, the pale caterpillar softening the toothed edge of a leaf. Your eyes, my eyes, shined again with that light. Elder hand, scare quotes burned off. Okay, so those are 2 recent poems, and then I'm going to read a couple poems from Magnifier, my book that just came out in the fall. This is the title poem, Magnifier. Fallen Osage orange smells like boards at a construction site I used to climb through, stealing nails I didn't need. The adults laughed at the scream of lobsters in the pot. Bump stocks and Bibles, said the wind in the trees. Your rewards will be many. Hedge funds and hegemony. I added that last part after fancy college. Grades tattooed on my ankle. Even the air is ranked like a snack or a scripture. Maybe you see me as a black pearl suddenly valuable. I'm the roach in the knife drawer, wearing a mask of white mold, engorged with atrazine, sipped from a dew bead. My gaze snowed out like a robbed carved god on display for donors. Soon I'll donate my body to popular culture, to eat me and absorb these parts per million, what's left of afternoons by the spillway under the interstate, taking hit after hit of oceanic feeling. In case of loss. Repeat what you can, commute 5 miles, dismantle the set, rest your buzzed head against the arch of the storm. Your cause is this green of light and new leaves. Petition the pollen for thousandfold returns, vineyards and pergolas, enduring enemies. Make your heart push blood through your ears submerged in a tub. Tear the certificate, breathe on the glass, see what belief is, the bloody feathers. Consult the dry canyons whose rivers now reign on thrones behind dams. The stars are reactors some conglomerate will tap. You won't be consulted. Return to ritual, that park always empty. Sit under scaffolding like sparrows or squirrels, neither in nor out. Kneel down with your animal. A heartbeat is strange in any container. Step out of the soundtrack into pine smell and piss mires, raying out from a center. Return to the verse marked by another. Read it with feeling to a wall peeling layers. Are you a user with access? Then enter the portal. Sit and say nothing to a child on the steps. The boardwalks, the ice creams, the brainless full summer, knocked down by waves, shell bits and teeth. The hands extended must be gripped, each in turn. Placeholder to placeholder. Peel off the sticker, put away the pictures, unplug the devices, throw her lock on the eggshells in the bag at the curb. Petition the snows coming from nowhere, they may bring news. Meet her that January as physics allows. Meet her that June, the pool where crabs scatter from cleaning the machinery of the music she loved. Each wave rocks it slightly. Answer the waves coming from shores of nowhere with questions. You lovers, you prophets, which silence is yours? That one started with, I write in moleskin journals. I know that's lame, but it's cool too. And each one has a little thing in case of loss, like, you know, like do X or Y, like put your name in and like, get, you know, there's like a dollar value that you put on it. And I just like that in case of loss. I added a few more things to that. This poem is called Sick Georgic. Having neither flock nor hill, forgive me, I imitate what I do not understand. The loose tarps rip against themselves in wind. A grass overgrown trough is what's left of the palace complexes. A dog licks from a drain by votives still flickering the next morning. The old man's face suspends there as the younger lifts up the match, like that moment when, driving by them, the rows of stalks go suddenly parallel. Reclamation by drainage reveals the necropolis. Earrings shimmer next to brown skulls emerging from mud, bringing down the angel curation. I wear the mark of gold burrs on rolled cuffs, escape along the dry watercourses, to that square not yet remembered for tears falling from the tip of the nose onto the touchscreen. Hail on the empty terrace, a strip bicycle chained to a lamppost. Having neither hut nor pond, let's stay in this room and cultivate gentleness. Machines will do the sorting and remembering. Machines will run the kidneys and the lottery. Insert the repeat lines in their places. No one can take your loneliness. Read of the monumental Eros of the dead. Read the wildflower identification book all winter. She held a dripping sponge in the doorway, saying goodbye. A bottle fell from a drunk's pack, didn't break. Imagine you are guarded by chance. It was like a dream of rain falling into an unfinished cathedral to one from a country extracting minerals. To find what heroes miss, I wander not far. The river squeezes through the broken locks. Wanderers toss dice against the cracked abutments. My secrets are not different from the secrets of the others. It's easier to pile rocks than watch a cloud very long. Taught to solve for X, but not to taste food. Taught by the older children to throw sharp stones at slow-dying, spawning black salmon. To find what heroes missed, I sit watching the river, compelled to leap its hurdles endlessly. Stars over gravel a cat sunned on earlier. Your is as first raindrops on paving stones, as cloud-break sunlight through a train window shows the fiery transparency of a sleeping child's eyelids. No one can take your loneliness. I admire that emperor, I forget which, who, asked to return from a far province to the throne, demurred. I'd rather stay here and grow cabbages. but having neither plot nor packet of dragon's teeth, Pythagorean past lives, nor opinion why seashells are found sometimes on the slopes of peaks, I merely imitate what I do not intend to improve upon. Whatever rough or folded shows the impetus written into it against entropy. The cut cabbage cascading through itself, the vertiginous rude crag intended as mere background to the conversion scene, whose naughty stylization kept me a long time in that gallery. The naughty in that last line was K-N-O-T-T-Y, not naughty as in bad. I'll read one more from this book. This is called Litany. I am with you where no preference is. Sunlight climbs the nail. I am a with, not a you, where the ice is gone. Two planes fly over a deer skeleton dug up. I am with you where no preference is. La la. A book of light crosses the forest floor. I cannot read in receptors all down my length. Nevertheless, I am a with, the blue absolutely through the pales of the corn rattles inaugurates. Flattened vole, the stair metaphor has taken the schools. A nut rebounds from a stone as if a great caution about occurrences suddenly was not. And I was a with, held in the swept pile of the hair of many heads, the hair of the stem of the coneflower, of the beard tongue, speaking nevertheless, no preference be with you, as I am by a stream that doesn't even keep any course or calendar, listening to its unlistening. I learned it on this pilgrimage to the middle, from two great ones who looked up from the ribs of the owl they were eating. I learned to be a with, largely the rooms in any glance you can't go in. Marshy ravine, your 1 week of unprepossessing, raggy rustishness, like lit storefronts dark closes down around, the instruments searching out conditions miss. Like a friend's face in the face of an ancient statue brought up from the bottom of a lake, the museum's closed-circuit cameras are closed to. Like scent of winter's broken branches, sawn in segments, warming in the sun, welcome as one who greeted us tenderly in childhood, with the unplanned obsolescence of all rains. Rain turning to snow across the stadium lights, be with you. Rifle range impact area on a fence of tangled purples, be with you, data collectors banding kestrel's ankles. Be with you, lineup of planes hanging over the dust-colored lake. Be with you, emptiness that displaces very water. All right, I'm going to read a couple poems from another collection of mine, In the Gorge. I'm going to read this poem for my brother since he chimed in to listen. This is about a hike we took together a few years ago where we tried to make it all the way around Mount Hood, but we didn't quite make it all the way. For a weird reason, which was that there was hundreds and hundreds of dead trees from this former forest fire that had been blown down across the trail. And so we just kept having to climb over all these trees that had fallen down, and we decided we weren't gonna make it around because it took us so long. This is called Hammer Sect. All morning cutting steps in steep summer snow lanes, wading gray silt glacial gorge cutter waters that wring the nerve from ankle to roots of teeth. We of the same hammer, brother, driven in, pried out again in bald day. Peregrine shadows passing over us. We who slept on the rim of stars creeping over ice now labor over thousands of fire-polished trunks snapped across the trail hard to trace. This is a quote from our guidebook. If you come to a Y, you have gone too far. We have come to many Ys, and now to this lightning-made colonnade of scorched white branchless ionic columns circling a green floor patterned with grasses, mosses, avalanche lilies. Enter this altar of the rime of banded fallen feather, lines scored by fallen boulders on the face of the highest fields of ice. Enter this towering absence of any tradition through which to make sense of it. Dusk fugue. Looking down from an overpass, looking up through the canopy, the contrails, the sunset are not different things. The mine and the prison in the hairs on our heads. Your face in my hands. I see where a canyon goes too steep for grass. Last colors before stars under the skins of the apples, dropped in piles for flies. Last colors before stars in the flies' shimmering bodies. In our bodies, bright salmon stand beneath sunflowers. From our mouths, an oak's breath talks justice at a benefit. The stripped terraces of a mine mean your voice in my hand. The barred terraces of a prison mean olives and wine. Coordinated sprinklers keep the coal mounds wet. A phone vibrates, a nerve agent twitches to death the boy in his father's arms. Some will be shielded by the wave as it passes. Somehow my face is not even wet, my mouth opened and said. Mine and prison, apple and fly, sunflowers, coal mounds, his boy and mine, the wave in your face, the deaths and the benefits are not different things. Last colors before the canyon goes too steep for grass. Lapse in autumn. Find a bare oak branch to walk with, like returning a lopped limb to the painful place. Follow a jagged, dry side creek, rubble heap of broken amphorae into which lost gods sorted seeds. A vault in Norway stores every kind of earth seed now, in 3-ply foil packages, for mice teeth after us. So many forms for passing milk into the year's revolving mouths. For the forest to walk through the forest. On not reaching the summit. Up there, pixels freeze, cloud flow, hawk float, grass seethe into a viewpoint equidistant from every point on the terabyte grid. I lie down beside the last elm where the path begins to switch back up a steep headland of grass, and raisin by raisin, eat a handful of raisins in glad unsuccess and countless wins, bending one lupine bell tower so the shadow of its black halo of bees intermittently black halos me, smug as a minor Byzantine in my niche filigreed with catchfly, paintbrush, and fescue. All right, and I'll read a couple more here from my first collection and end with a longer poem. This one is called November. Child-wise vision of a coho thrashing in thin floodwater blankets on a black road. Enraged with milt, it slithers over asphalt. It will not reach the red. It will not pass the code that maps from source to mouth its fluent God. Yet I return to its struggled ditchward to spawn alone on the sharp, damp rocks. This is where I was born. Invasives. High tide pressed me up into the yellow invasive Scotch broom whose roots hold fast this crumbling cliff. Against root give, I clung ever more urgently to the still small voice whose seeds blew into me from 19th century fields. Watching tankers drag coal hillsides, tourist districts, shining decks of cars past distant peaks. And since this tide would not retreat, cut a hard path up the cliff, made my way through vacationers sauntering the green of a fin de siècle fort, where genteel, sympathetic murder was taught. In haphazard rows, children at art camp lounged with ice creams, laughing avidly. There must be a reel higher or harder than this, I said, and took the trail up to a bluff overlooking international waters, walked the rim of the impregnable concrete walls of the abandoned gun emplacements. This is a place finally nothing can invade, I thought, admiring the Mayan monumentality stripped of phony deity. I can build hard apprehension here. Up a narrow ladder, I climbed into the watchtower, shut the iron visor, and sat in ammonia-smelling dark, where deep and calm and perpetual could never take. Then Japanese fire balloons floated elegantly past the long-range guns in this after-image of a state park plaque, touching down 70 years ago in Montana forests, igniting a recent candidate's promise of colonies on the moon. What do you guys think? Should I read one more longer poem? Do you feel, okay. Some of you, I've read this poem before, so you know it. But this is called I Ink. It starts with some lines by Walt Whitman and ends with a couple lines from a poem that Ezra Pound wrote addressed to Walt Whitman. I incorporate gneiss and coal and long-threaded moss and fruits and grains and esculent roots. A gravity dam 550 feet high on this, the continent's steepest river machine, with 13 other dams, a system of locks and ladders for commerce, continuance of species, twin cooling towers of a data center for the world's most powerful search engine, installed at the site of a lost Babel, where first peoples converged in that universal language, trade. Night spearing of salmon by torchlight lost, men's faces aflash in archives, expressionist petroglyphs eerily contemporary, photographed by professors before the big sink. I incorporate with irrigation ditches, thousands of gridded miles of piping, hoses, scaffolding for sprinklers, insecticide banners over alfalfa terraces, green shining to the edge of the glacier-cut gorge. And on the ridges, white windmills, futurist crosses, revivalist architecture of potato magnates, societies for the preservation of automatic, semi-automatic, Gun Hill, Gun River. Without judgment, that sucked candy, I incorporate the leaden groundwater under firing range and echoing factory, the cap full of phosphates, Chicago River run backward to Mississippi, algae clotting the Gulf's left ventricle, plumes of oil filmed by unmanned cameras designed to sustain unearthly pressure, ingenious inhibitors of serotonin reuptake present from sewage in measurable amounts in the Great Lakes. And calm as the not I appears, I incorporate the not I. The talkers and headsets talking to no one present. Bach and baseball and tobacco stocks ticking. The screen-lit lotus-eating faces staring, clicking. Disgust me and I incorporate them with the disappearing bees. Defense drones undetectable except by ordnance flowering, skull, sternum, uterus. I am born at many removes from Thoreau, who paused to notice the thickness of surface ice. And tormented by his still form in the hut doorway, sun on skin, outside time, I incorporate it, and it binds the metal in my blood, the compound sinking to my feet. Impossibly heavy, I drive them into mountains topped with blinking towers, zigguratted by logging roads, in a motley of clear cuts and necklaced with triple-stranded cables whose buzzing sounds like rain. And up there, walking the ancient Cascade volcanic arc, I incorporate the green company of grunts on leave in sunburned skulls, who go silent posing on a high promontory. Premonitions of Hindu Kush, they frighten me with politeness on the trail, acne, and large vulnerable ears. I could clap their shoulders, clasp them, pretend to spar as with my brothers, but helpless to keep them for their families' sakes from disappearing into the photograph's digital veil, can only incorporate them as I must these actors charging the hill on a screen in a window I walk under later. Many rooms are lit this way, the allegory literalized, and I am outside in another cave of streetlights flicking on under cameras. I pass through these and incorporate their recordings of me into that Gordian nerve net of me not recorded, firing charges down too many forks to be reliably modeled, the loops of its feedback with external stimuli so intricately in-nested, a representation of them would curve its outer ring through the ort. And I must go farther, into imagined futures, incorporate corn stalks 12 feet high with black leaves modified by photosynthetic silicates for 90% efficiency of capture, and acorn-sized kernels. They are beautiful if not yet realized, and I am afraid of them, utterly, as I was in Chicago, homesick for Trask and Kilchis, Siletz and Nestucca, and found at the eastern end of Pratt Street, where it abuts the lake, frozen corpses of Chinook salmon, washed up like grotesques out of my memory. Transplants are everywhere, translations of translations, no place embodies itself, all overlap. And so I incorporate them, unifying them in one brand, Brandon, meaning from a flaming hill, as claimed by a bookmark given me when young. I place it in the book of grass, and the book catches fire and illuminates the undersides of clouds. An advertisement, like the orange GE glowing on a building in Midtown, seen by the lovers, naked in infinite regress of 2 walls of hotel room mirrors. And full disclosure, it was I positioned against her in the mirror's smallest frame, feeling I have lived in invisible abstract cornucopia diminishment of frame within frame, where only images propagate, invincible distant as the acronym halos guarding Mannahatta's skyline. Corporations are all. Resist or acquiesce, I incorporate their paltry specializations into this brand whose acronym is every star in the night sky and in the day sky too. For though it is invisible, it is nevertheless present, totalizing, undemocratic as every corporation aspires to be. And reader far hence, face lit by a little held charge, a little water's motion, a million-stranded rope of sand, all of my swindling and evasion is for our certain merger. For I am corrupt as every other, and you must absorb my assets, as I have absorbed this broadcast image from Stalin's Ukrainian famine. The infant automaton in the street still nursing on its starved dead mother. Swallow me and go. I do not wait for you, I am in you already. There is commerce between us. So that's all I had planned.